There is evidence that suggests our ancestors were cannibalistic as early as 800,000 years ago. They had good cause to do so. The typical adult human provides 30 kilos, 66 pounds of food, which includes skin, muscle, fat, and organs. Undoubtedly, cannibalism is frowned upon in our culture, yet there are allegations that it is still practiced in some areas today. Join us as we look at 5 interesting cannibalism facts. At number 5, tasting the long pig. Human meat, according to most cannibals, has a taste similar to veal, sweet or porky. Although it has a beef-like appearance, Armin Meiwes, the well-known German cannibal who killed a man who appeared consenting and consumed up to 20 kilos, 44 pounds, of his flesh, is perhaps one of the best individuals to ask. He described the flavor of human flesh as being similar to pork during an interview conducted from his prison cell, but a little bit more bitter, stronger. It has a nice flavor. Human meat is odorless and not gamey, according to Japanese cannibal Issei Sagawa, who killed and ate a classmate in Paris. However, Polynesian cannibals maintain that human flesh tastes a lot like pork, which is why it is known as long pig. The flavor will vary depending on the age of the consumer, the body part being eaten, and the cooking technique. Children are said to have meat that is so soft it has a texture similar to fish. Cooking human flesh is most commonly done by roasting or stewing it with spices and fiery peppers. Many tribes won't consume it until it is briefly rotted, which is a traditional culinary technique to tenderize and improve the flavor. Number 4. Kuru. Just because cannibals have given long pig such high ratings, you might want to reconsider before trying it. You run the risk of getting kuru in addition to spending the rest of your life behind bars. Kuru is a degenerative disease that is incurable and ultimately fatal. It is similar to mad cow disease, except that human flesh is the only way to catch it instead of contaminated meat. Kuru was first discovered in Papua New Guinea in the 1950s, and it spread there as a result of the 4 tribes' cannibalistic practices. The majority of the infectious proteins, known as prions, are discovered in the brains of the deceased, which the 4 would ritualistically devour. Kuru symptoms include shaking, fits of laughing, slurred speech, and finally losing the ability to move or swallow. Usually, the incubation period lasts between 10 and 13 years, but cases have been documented up to 50 years following exposure. The majority of victims pass away a year after their symptoms first appear. Remarkably, in 2009, scientists reported that they had discovered a gene mutation, mostly present in communities affected by the illness, that provides certain people with immunity against Kuru. Natural selection is thought to be at work in this variety because individuals who were born immune to Kuru lived and passed on their genes to their progeny, while those who were born without immunity perished. Number 3. Endo and exo-cannibalism. There are 2 main groups into which cannibalism falls. The first type is endocannibalism, which is the practice of honoring the dead by consuming the flesh of a deceased tribesman or family member. By consuming the brains and flesh of their dead, the Fore tribe, for instance, believed that the deceased soul was able to stay in close contact with their living relatives. The act of eating an outsider in order to steal their life power or to scare others falls under the second type, known as exocannibalism. Reports of a Syrian rebel leader eating an enemy soldier's organs show that exocannibalism is still practiced occasionally worldwide, despite the fact that governments and Christian missionaries eliminated most kinds of endocannibalism in the middle of the 20th century. Another instance of exocannibalism occurred in 2014, as a guy in the Central African Republic by the name of Mad Dog was alleged to have consumed the raw leg of a victim. The Muslim man was dragged from a bus by Mad Dog and a group of people who then beat, stabbed, and burned him. In an attempt at vengeance, Mad Dog slaughtered and cannibalized his victim after unidentified Muslims killed his sister-in-law, her child, and his pregnant wife. Some militants from the Central African Republic say they can become invincible by swallowing the flesh of their enemies because it has magical qualities. Number 2. Auto-cannibalism. While cannibalism is typically classified as either endo- or exo-cannibalistic, there is another kind of cannibalism. The practice of eating your own flesh is called auto-cannibalism, sometimes referred to as self-cannibalism or autosarcophagy. Due to the involuntary eating of dead cells from the tongue, cheeks, nosebleeds, or ulcers, everyone cannibalizes himself to some extent. However, voluntary auto-cannibalism can take many forms, such as eating your own muscle and skin or biting your fingernails. Some will engage in radical body alteration such as auto-cannibalism, while others will auto-vampirize by drinking their own blood. Forcing someone to eat bits of their own body is a darker variation of auto-cannibalism. In 2003, the UN charged Congolese rebels with compelling pygmies to consume their own flesh. The most well-known instance of auto-cannibalism in U.S. history happened in 1934 when 2,000 white Southerners abducted Claude Neal, a black man, and made him consume his own testicles before skinning and burning him. We're almost there. Give us a thumbs up if you enjoy this kind of content. Number 1. Chimpanzee cannibalism. The chimpanzee shares 98% of our DNA. Although it is well known that male chimpanzees are aggressive, primatologist Jane Goodall saw 2 females, a mother and daughter pair, eat 3 young chimpanzees in 1976. If Goodall hadn't interrupted with yelling and hurling rocks and stones, the aggressive pair would have devoured a 4th. More recently, researchers saw 6 females, 5 with their own clinging children, chase an injured mother to kill her baby with a bite to the head. This kind of hostility may be growing more common as humans encroach on chimps' natural habitats, forcing the creatures to aggressively try to protect their dwindling resources.